But he's a professional. I don't even know. I don't even know why I'm telling him these things.
I think it's the one who's supposed to give you instructions.
Yeah,
the one who looks tense a bit.
All right, just speak into your mic a little.
1 2 1 2 3. Test,
Bashir,
test.
Mic check 1 2.
Okay, it's mine, which is
check.
Is yours on? Mic check.
Yeah.
All right, we're good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Kissing Annie podcast.
Yeah. And today we have a very special guest. I know
special guest in the building.
We say that about all the guests, but from today now we are serious about the special part.
Oh, this is a very special.
Now this is a very special.
And
then now there's gonna be a very, very special
after these guests
when he comes back.
So we hang out here with Mr. Peter Zamalyev.
Am I special because I'm Muzungu? Is that?
No. It's the braces. Like
those looks like an Aborigine. Papua New Guinea Islands, right?
Yeah. You look a bit because there's a video of you on the screen. Your beard looks a bit darker there.
Yeah, I guess.
Did you gray on your trip to around the world?
But also, I mean, I've had to dye my beard because it's great. So maybe that's just a fresher dye that you see.
All right.
Not my hair on the head, but the beard. Yes. Now I just turned 50 2 days ago.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't what I did to deserve it. I just survived.
All right.
Hopefully you will too.
Hopefully, man. I'm not gonna dye mine. As you can see, I'm also graying very quickly. 40. I'm turning 44.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I'm right on your heels.
I feel like you guys are leaving me out of this conversation. No, because I don't have a beard. I'm feeling a bit.
I'm sorry. You're gonna get there, my brother.
Beard envy.
So Peter is you're the first Ukrainian that I know. Were you born in the Ukraine or were you born in America?
Yeah, I was born in Ukraine. But actually, we were right. I was born in the Ukraine back when it was common to say the Ukraine. Then after Ukraine's independence, it was decided to drop the.
Oh, right.
Right, and so it's just Ukraine. And yes, I was born there, raised, and then I experienced the dissolution of the Soviet Union in '91 and
you did.
Emergence of an independent Ukraine. But lived only 3 years in Ukraine and left for America.
Oh, okay.
To go live in the state of Tennessee and be a Bible preacher.
All right.
In the South, the deep conservative South of America.
That is fast.
So when you say 3 years, you left when you were 3 years old.
Yes. No. Yeah. 3 years into independent Ukraine.
Oh,
when I was 18,
yeah.
About to turn 19. The summer of '94 is when I moved to the U.S. to study. And then I moved from Tennessee to New York. I lived 5 years in Tennessee, 17 years in New York. They say it takes 10 years to be qualified as a proper New Yorker, so I guess I'm a New York and a half.
All right.
And now I've been, and then I returned to Kiev, where I've been hosting a TV show on one of the major TV channels there, and traveling, attending international conferences, especially after the start of the war against Ukraine.
Okay.
Which don't forget, it was not just 2022, but 2014 was the first one. The takeover.
What happened in 2014?
The Crimea. There was annexed after our former president Yanukovych was had to go into exile, or he went into exile, and there was a popular uprising against his rule, which the Russians will tell you was a violent overthrow, and I will tell you there was a democratic uprising against a tyrant and a corrupt leader, Euromaidan, so to speak, right? And so Russia took advantage of the vacuum that was created to move on Crimea, annex it, and then instigate hostilities in the east of Ukraine to make it look like a civil war, which it never really was. It was Russian spies and agents and mercenaries who infiltrated the east of Ukraine and began a war with Ukraine proper.
So you've packed a lot of information in a very small capsule.
It's like when people today, I was on Capital FM, and the hostess asked me, like, what should our viewers know about? Or, I'm sorry, KBC Radio this morning, and what should our viewers know about why did Russia go to war against Ukraine? And I looked at it, I was like, okay, where do I begin? Like 50 years ago, 100, or 500 years ago, right? Depending on the time span, right?
Yeah.
These things go.
It goes way back. Yeah.
Way back, and then people make very spurious historical arguments of unity of nations, and that's what Putin has done, right? He's essentially tried to say that yes, I mean, at one point, one time he says that Ukrainians and Russians are brotherly people. like cousins. And another time he will say that it's one people, it's one nation. There's no difference between them.
Yeah.
So he can't even get the story straight, as if that justifies a violent aggression against another country. You
Yeah.
know? And he's used that to justify his aggression against Ukraine, as if Ukraine simply has no right to exist as a sovereign state. But then there's the argument about NATO expansion. We can all go into all of that.
So let's get into the Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah.
Why was it called the Ukraine?
It was the Ukraine, not anymore.
Yeah.
It's just Ukraine. But old guard, you know, you can tell the person's age by how she or he says Ukraine. If she or he refers to the Ukraine, it means that, you know, they grew up during the Cold War, when it was, you know, known as part of the Soviet Union.
So is it,
It's a sort of kind of, I can't even describe to you. I mean, you have the Philippines, you have certain island nations who have the Solomon
Yeah.
Islands, whatever. Why the Ukraine? It never made any goddamn sense to me. So I think it makes sense. It made sense to get rid of it, make it, you know, sound more like a proper country. You don't say the Russia. I mean, right? I mean, in French, in French, you say la France, right? Using the feminine definite article. But it's English. In English, normally you don't use definite articles. I mean, the states, because it's a word, it's a noun. But Ukraine is just Ukraine.
So did you grow up in Kiev?
No, I grew up in Donetsk. And that's precisely the Russian-speaking part where the war began in 2014, and which has been under Russian occupation since 2014-15. And, you know, that means my family had to leave Donetsk and resettle elsewhere. I essentially lost my home,
Yeah.
my homeland. And now, after the start of this latest round, right, the full-scale invasion of 2022, Putin made these parts of Ukraine Russia proper and wrote them into the constitution, whereas before they were like disputed territories, occupied, whatever, indeterminate status. Now they're just as much a part of Russia, my hometown, as Moscow is, according to the constitution.
So that's what they mean by it's been annexed. It's been taken.
Yes, yes. Crimea was annexed first, and then I think Putin for a while wanted to use the Donbass as a bargaining chip to get official recognition of Crimea, of sovereignty over Crimea. He never got that, and then he got apparently pissed. Maybe after several years spending in a bunker during COVID times, Putin was in complete isolation, away from everyone else. So there's a lot to be said about this idea that Putin has grown so intensely fixated on Ukraine, and you could say downright crazy, because of being bottled up for several, 3 years deep in the bunker, away from people. It took weeks, and on an average, it took, if you wanted to see Putin, if you had an official meeting with him, right, an appointment, you had to sit in quarantine for 2 weeks in isolation, and then you were admitted to see Putin. It's not a joke. I mean, that's how it. So you can imagine the sort of mental processes.
Is that why they have these long tables? Like
And the long table, I was just actually revisiting that photo of Emmanuel Macron, right? The last ditch shuttle diplomacy to try to stave off the war that was coming. You remember?
Yeah.
Like a sequence of Western leaders coming to Moscow, trying to talk him out of it. And I think Macron was one of the last. And you saw how successful that was.
So you said your hometown is called Donetsk, and then there is Luhansk. So that makes up Donbass.
Yes, exactly. Those two, yes, precisely.
All right. So is it like a big area?
It's a big area, and before the war, at least, you had, 7 million people living in that area. 7 million people. It's the industrial heartland of Ukraine.
Okay.
That's a coal mining area. So coke producing factories, coal mining factories, steel plants. A hugely important area of Ukraine. Yes.
All right. So is
and also agricultural. I mean, everywhere you go in Ukraine, it's agriculture. A very fertile land, fields. We're known for our sunflowers and sunflower.
Apparently, we import a lot of wheat from Ukraine.
And of course, Ukraine has been known as the breadbasket
Of the world.
Of the world, of Europe specifically.
Yeah.
After World War I, of World War II, that was the epithet attached to Ukraine as one of the greatest producers of wheat, precisely, and other grain as well.
So was it Crimea then Donbass, or it was Donbass?
It was Crimea, right in March, I think. Well, yeah, early in 2014. I think by March it was kind of fait accompli. It was Putin never acknowledged initially that it was Russians. There were some men wearing green green uniforms without any insignia that pretended to be there on their own. No markers, nothing. And that just gave Putin this plausible deniability, right? And then he acknowledged it was our people. And so that's what happened. And then sometime by April, May of 2014, this is when war breaks out in the Donbass.
All right.
Slowly. And then a full-blown battle for the airport, the famous battle for the airport, which had just been built, a brand new airport that cost billions of dollars to build, that was built precisely for the Europe Cup, soccer cup that we had in Donetsk.
Okay.
Billions of dollars in investment, and within a week, totally destroyed.
So when we talk about these places, they're, in my mind, I've never been there. So these are big cities. Are we talking about?
I mean, a million.
Nairobi size.
Well, Donetsk is 1,200,000 people. And throughout, you have cities of 200, 300,000. I mean, by Ukrainian standards, probably not by Chinese standards, right?
Yeah.
But these are big cities, and that's precisely why this whole talk about land swaps, and this we'll get into that again, that Trump is suggesting, or actually, enthusiastically repeating Kremlin's wishes, right? That let's just swap land. First of all, you're swapping Ukrainian land for Ukrainian land, right? One occupied part of Ukraine for another, and then apparently Putin's new wish is not that Ukraine recognize the current lines of engagement, current front lines, and freezing it. He wants Ukraine to leave voluntarily from the parts of the Donbass that it still controls. And that is the part that still has those major towns, maybe call them cities, smaller scale cities like Slavyansk and Donetsk and Kramatorsk. They're like 200, 300,000 pre-war population, respectively. And they're essentially fortresses. They've been fortified since the first 2014, in the first first round of Russia's aggression. So these are hugely important from the defense side of things. Right?
Yeah.
And so if Russia were to conquer them or, voluntarily be given control of them, it would, what the military experts call, have possession of commanding heights, from which, if it wishes, it will have a greater advantage to continue attacking Ukraine. You see, that's the conundrum. That's why land swapping is such a non-starter.
Yeah.
For Europe, for Ukraine and for its European allies.
So do you have any relatives who are still on that side of?
Yes, of course I have relatives.
Your grandparents?
No, my grandparents are dead and gone. They're not immediate circle of relatives, but yes, I do, of course.
So what's happening on the ground? Like, do you have to change your identification documents to make you identify as a Russian now? Like, what's happening there?
Yes. Essentially, people have been forced to give up their Ukrainian citizenship. Unless you give up your Ukrainian citizenship, you have no rights, right? You will probably lose your apartment, you lose your job, so you're forced Russian citizenship on yourself, and you have to speak Russian. Most of those people were Russian speaking anyway, but there were already Ukrainian schools, and that means no to Ukrainian language, Ukrainian schools, etc., re-education, re-brainwashing. Don't forget that 20,000 or more Ukrainian children have been kidnapped, essentially abducted and taken to Russia for re-education in the hatred of Ukraine, apparently. It's such a big problem that Melania Trump was moved to write a letter to Putin, which it passed through Trump when they met in Alaska. You saw that, right? So that's another thing people just kind of tend to ignore and forget.
And how about the Russians? What do they feel about that? Like, what's the general feeling, especially in those areas? Do they also want some of those areas annexed?
The Russians?
Yes.
On the other way?
In that area. Like, are they also like, let's go get this lands? Like,
well, Russians have been, there are some indications that large majority of Russians are also tired of this war, but the question is, are they tired enough to recognize that this has been an illegal invasion and they should give up all claims to the captured territory? No, they're full of, they're infected with this territorial fetish. It seems like they've been convinced that the only way Russia can be great is by amassing more territory. And if I don't think you have to be really great at geography. Most people know what Russia looks like on the map. It's
huge,
pretty fucking big.
Yeah.
And why would it need more land, right? It's kind of patently ridiculous in its head, right? But that's been sort of the mythology of Russia, that Russia's borders stop nowhere. That's literally what they say. Russia's borders stop nowhere. I don't know what you make of it. I cannot make head or tail of it. But that's what the sort of the doctrine is, you know. And the doctrine is also wherever the foot of a Russian soldier steps, meaning, you know, how far he's progressed, that's Russian territory right there. You know?
All right.
That's exactly what the Russian propaganda will tell you. That's their official position. That's what they're feeding to their people. Not an inch back, no retreat, nothing. So if you listen to all this propaganda, if you read the Telegram, if you go to the Telegram channel or the X channel of Mr. Medvedev, have you heard of that?
Yeah.
He was this placeholder.
He used to be president.
He
at
was
some
president
point.
for
Now
a while,
he's-
a nominal president.
Yeah.
He was just a placeholder for Putin. But before that, he was prime minister. I mean, still part of the very, you know,
Inner circle.
inner circle of Russia's elite.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to his Telegram channel, that's all you need to know about what Russia's real intentions are about. That will really dispel all any illusions you may have about prospects for peace or whatever Trump is saying, that Putin is a peacemaker. He just wants to promote peace. Read Medvedev. I mean, it will remind you of something. It will remind you of the country that I visited prior to coming to Kenya, and that's Rwanda, and that's 1994. Radio 1,000 Hills, the rhetoric of Tutsis as cockroaches.
Yeah.
You know, all of that, right? So it's exactly the terminology he uses. He has called Ukrainians insectoid creatures. He has called
Medvedev now.
Medvedev, and he has called for their eradication, de-insectivization of them and their European allies. You know, he has threatened nuclear war, annihilation. It's completely dehumanizing, and it's absolutely unprecedented to see a former president of a European country engage in purely genocidal rhetoric.
No, so I'm curious about when I look at this story, especially from an outside perspective. I mean, there's this propaganda being sold about, you know, it's about territory and gaining more land and control. So how do you differentiate between that and like the real reason why they want to take Ukraine? Like, is it like the hatred for Ukraine is more than their love for territory, or like what is the real story behind them wanting Ukraine?
I think it's a combination. Of course, more territory wouldn't hurt anyone, right? That's what they're thinking, even if it's just scorched earth. I mean, the way they liberate these lands, and that's also their official line, is just we're liberating our compatriots, our fellow Russian speakers. Whenever the other arguments don't work, they're just using all these different arguments depending on the audience and depending on what sticks, right? This is also tells you about their sincerity in what they're saying. But also the hatred of Ukraine, that's also very true. It's seen as a traitor to the Russian cause, whatever that may be, just because Ukrainians wanted to be part of Europe. And I have to say very clearly, they're part of Europe. I'm not touching NATO yet, because Ukrainians wanting to join NATO was actually the doing of Putin himself. He whipped up his anti-Ukraine hysteria to the point where, you know, it justified this first aggression in 2014. That led to the majorities of Ukrainians wishing to join NATO. And how can you blame them? You know, if he went into Ukraine to prevent NATO's expansion, then he's achieved the opposite of what he set out to do, because as a result he got 2 new members of NATO, Sweden and Finland, precisely because of his actions against Ukraine. So yes, it does boil down to this anti-Ukraine hysteria that he whipped up. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy where Ukrainians wanted to get as far away from Russia as possible. And now there's been a resurgence of Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian language, you know, so it's almost like some people have called Putin the architect of Ukrainian, you know, nationhood and consciousness.
He's
right?
brought you guys together.
Exactly. I mean, you're probably familiar with that. It's a very, I think, human phenomenon.
But why does he feel this sense of responsibility as if he's the one liberating you? Like, where does it come from? Like that?
I mean, he's messianic. That's true. He's messianic. He's actually. I don't have to conjecture or speculate. All you have to do is listen to him himself. He has compared himself de facto to Peter the Great. You remember the Tsar? In the early 18th century, 1720s, 30s, who was known as the gatherer of Russian lands. Under Peter the Great, Russia gained a lot more additional territory, and that's how Putin sees himself. He wants to reclaim some of the lost territory as a result of the breakup of the Soviet Union. He wants to restore the Soviet Union in a way that would be different, of course, but you know, still, Ukraine is an essential component to that. Ukraine, once again, he probably genuinely does not feel that Ukrainians ought to have their own state. he generally feels that Kiev is part of Russian civilization, is the cradle of Russian civilization, even though the word Russian, you also can quibble about that. It comes from the ancient word Rus, R-U-S, and it has apparently Swedish, Nordic, roots, etc. And the ruling elite back then was from the Nordic countries, were the Swedes, etc. So if you really want to go back to history, then there was no, at that time there was no Ukraine, no Russia. Of course, there was different tribes, then coalesced into different groupings. But all these historical arguments are spurious. You just have to, at some point, dismiss them out of hand, because if you start, going and quibbling about this, that, and the other, then you're playing his game. For me, it is enough that Ukrainians have declared themselves independent of Russia and separate from Russia. It's as if, look at this, the Bantu nations, right? Is there a Bantu nation? No, there's a whole bunch of you're Bantus, right? Most likely.
Yeah.
Basutus in Lesotho are Bantus. You don't understand each other's languages, but it's as if to say that there comes some Zulu king, messianic Zulu king, obsessed with, personal power and prestige and amassing territory, and he declares like this should not be a place for, Setswana and Basuto and all these Bantus. We're all just one Bantu nation. Let's live together. That's probably the closest analogy I can draw. You would probably have a thing or two to say about whether you should be allowed to be a separate nation or not. You see, and Putin has just gone into these historical arguments. Even someone as friendly to Putin as Tucker Carlson, you familiar with that?
Yeah. He went there and they did a very...
I saw that interview.
I think even with him, which is a very, very friendly face to Putin, right? This conspiracy-minded fella, and Putin lost him when he went into the...
He went to the historical
the history,
thing.
remember? And the eyes of Tucker's eyes just glazing over.
Yeah.
He's like trying to make sense of what Putin is talking about.
Yeah. So what's life like right now? Because in Kenya, we've never experienced war, which is a good thing. So what's life like in the Ukraine for the people who are...
You're still saying the Ukraine. What's
No, I've said Ukraine.
You said in the Ukraine.
I've said in the Ukraine.
Yes, you said in the
Okay,
Ukraine.
that's an error. So what's life like in Ukraine for the average individual who's at the front line?
Well, at the front line.
Like, the places where you're hearing bombs...
It's a good question, because, the entire country of Ukraine, and that's something that I want our viewers to fully, comprehend and imbibe as the truth of life in a country of 35 million people, which the entirety of that country of 35 million people has become the front line. Russia's drones and ballistic missiles reach far beyond Ukraine's borders, so no part of Ukraine is invulnerable, right? Those those guys reach everywhere. And so in a way, Kiev is a front line. Kharkiv is a front line. The western town of Lviv, all the way on the western part of Ukraine, is a front line. Because, and recently Russia has been able to increase dramatically its production of drones, where it can launch up to 700 drones at once during one night. And that translates into people spending up to 10 hours in bunkers and subway stations in Kiev. Kiev is a city of 4 million people. It's even larger than, I think it's similar to Nairobi in that sense. And so that means while people still go about their daily lives, they manage still to have fun. Let's not, make it out to be too depressing. I mean, it is depressing, of course. It's tired. People are tired. People are, having psychological problems, etc. But people still have their, restaurants are open up until curfew. We have curfew at 12 midnight, and but there are even clubs. People have managed to have fun.
It's a new normal.
Even though people are constantly updating their normal. So by the time I left in September, I've been away for 11 months. That to me now seems surreal, even though I was part of it. But it's gotten worse. It's gotten harsher. More drone attacks, more destruction, more deaths, and yet people still manage to. I still manage to see ads on my Facebook page for a party, for a gallery opening, for a restaurant opening in Kiev. Yes, that happens. That's part of the surrealism of this. That's why I actually encourage people to go. Don't take responsibility for that, but people who take a reasonable amount of risk, journalists, etc. The time to go to Ukraine is now.
You think we could get there?
Yes, I mean, it may sound like macabre, right? But as a journalist, it would be of huge interest for you to experience what it's like, how people live in this with this updated sense of normal in a country like that. The stories you will hear, and the sonic booms and the shaking of the buildings from the kinetic force released by when a Patriot missile intercepts ballistic missiles in the sky that travels at the speed of 4 kilometers per second.
Yo.
Think about it again, 4 kilometers per second.
That's crazy.
And the kinetic force that is released is enough to shake the entire city of 4 million people. When else will you experience that? Right now, I'm sounding like I'm, plugging for hey, tourism to Ukraine. Come
Missile tourism.
and stay
Experience
alive.
sonic
and,
booms.
It's like a reality show. And of course, let's not belittle the
struggles.
tragedy that is happening,
Yeah.
etc. But once again, people go about their daily lives. Otherwise, they just couldn't be able to resist, right? They wouldn't be able to resist.
Has life become very expensive now?
I mean, life has become expensive everywhere, right? Precisely because of the war in Ukraine, inflation has been growing, the price of grain has gone up. It created tremendous, bottlenecks with transportation of goods, etc. It's only made things worse, right? So things have gotten expensive everywhere. But miraculously, Ukraine has managed to stay afloat. Of course, not least thanks to our European partners and loans and interest-free loans from the European Union, etc. And up until now, at least from the U.S. Now Trump is talking about disengaging. We'll see.
Is it sad that they're giving loans, especially now during war? Because that means eventually they'll say, pay us back.
Eventually they might, but eventually the historical record is countries that have gone through famine and through war, and were bailed out, right, from wars, etc. They never really have to pay. I mean, most of the time, those loans are written off. Yeah, at least partly written off. And there's another very important thing to consider: largely Europe, but also U.S. are sitting on a huge pile of money from Russian money that was frozen early on. That was the central bank's assets, sovereign wealth fund. $300 billion. So it's being decided now. We still are not there, but there's an argument that's been made by some prominent legal scholars, including professors from Harvard, that this money should go for Ukraine's reconstruction, rebuilding. It's a controversial thing. It may cause problems for West's financial system. Bankers don't like that sort of thing. They think that folks, the nouveau riche and the kleptocrats of the world will take their business elsewhere if it's seen like that your money can be confiscated,
Can just be
like
taken.
that. But at the same time, there's a strong argument for the moral argument that whoever's wreaking this destruction ought to pay for its reconstruction.
Oh, okay. So what's happening with Trump meeting Putin? What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I mean,
the
the visuals of it, of course, were quite obscene. Even though I can see and I know they understand the reasoning of Donald Trump that you butter him up, you pay whatever price. You roll out literally the red carpet. You
fly by.
You spend like a time riding in a limo one-on-one with no translators, no one present. All this stuff, and you clap, you applaud to him as he's making his way up the red carpet. I mean, if that's the strategy, if Trump thinks that's what will get us peace, I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but I don't think Putin buys it. Trump thinks that everyone is like him, vain and easily prone to, vulnerable to flattery. But it's probably not the case. I think Putin is a bit smarter than that. He's less vain, most likely. And so we're seeing these nasty spectacles. But what's more important is that he comes out of the meeting spouting Putin's narratives and broadcasting his wish list, and that makes it harder. And that actually what necessitated that gang of 8 or however many Europeans, the who is who, to break off their late summer vacations and rush to the White House to accompany Zelensky to prevent the worst from happening. So Zelensky was persuaded to finally put on that.
Suit.
I wouldn't even. I mean, semi-suit. It was not really sooty.
Coat.
No, but it was something.
Yeah.
It apparently thrilled on Donald Trump. Everyone was at pains to flatter him. You know, Zelensky in 4 minutes, I think, thanked Trump 6 or 7 times, and that's just par for the course. That's what you do in the Oval Office these days. We'll see. I think there was a little bit of a correction there. It helped to avert the worst.
So was that
but it's still a very mixed bag with Trump. We don't know which way he's gonna go. He's still, constantly talking about Vlad. I have to consult with Vlad, and he's repeating this idea of the land swap and the peace agreement versus the ceasefire. That's another important sticking point that you have to unpack for our audience to understand what's going on, because that's what Trump has also been saying, and that's precisely Putin's wish. Let's go for the peace agreement directly. Let's not bother with the ceasefire, which is a formula for continuing its campaign of terror against civilians and continuing to press its advantage on the battlefield, while some capitulatory conditions for peace are being hashed out. Essentially, a downsizing of Ukraine's army to under 100,000 men and women under arms compared to the current 1 million. That means Russian gaining official status. That means hard no to NATO, a loss of control over its foreign policy choices, and the land swaps, etc., essentially turning Ukraine into a protectorate. Elections, Zelensky out of power, all of that constitutes Putin's wish list. The country next door, Belarus, you're familiar with Lukashenko, and that's essentially what
happened to them?
Envisions for Ukraine.
Oh, okay. So it's some sort of puppet-like, mini puppet-like
precisely.
state. So do you think Biden was a better friend to Ukraine than Trump?
I think he was definitely a better friend to Ukraine, even though there's a lot of revisionism now. It's almost like Biden is toxic, and it's toxic to say anything good about Biden because he was senile and all this stuff, and Trump doesn't care if he denigrates him in front of world leaders, right, and takes advantage of the press conference he's having with the president of another country to denigrate his predecessor and to cast aspersions, to curse him out. It's just the new normal in Washington, right? All norms of proper etiquette and behavior are out the window. That is obscene. That's not something I'm used to. I'm not sure if I'll ever be used to that. You can say whatever you may about Biden. I will say one thing: he was indecisive about his support for Ukraine. He should have done more when it mattered. Ukraine was on the offensive. Remember, very confidently reclaiming its land, deoccupying its territories.
What more do you think he'd have done?
More offensive and more stronger and more offensive weaponry to Ukraine then, faster and more timely fashion. I think Ukraine might have been able to liberate the rest of the territory. Leaving aside Crimea, I think the rest of the Donbass, etc., would have been in a much better position now to be engaged in these peace talks. On the other hand, he re-energized NATO. He gathered all these people under the umbrella of the Ramstein coalition, 40 countries and supporters of Ukraine. He did tremendously, of course, a tremendous lot. And for Trump to say that this is Biden's war, I mean, to say the least, is a huge understatement. Yes, it did happen under Biden's watch, but it's not Biden who started the war, it's Putin. Whatever you say about Biden, it was not Biden's war.
And what was the
war of choice by the Russian Federation against an independent, sovereign neighbor.
What was Hunter Biden doing in the Ukraine?
Hunter Biden
in Ukraine.
In Ukraine, he was involved in business. He was involved in business, and apparently he did take advantage of his, of course, familial ties, his last name, to get some preferential treatment. We don't know. I don't know fully the story. I'm not sure it amounted to anywhere near the sort of corruption we see now in the White House now. But of course, they will always point finger and say, as if to justify, in that sort of backhanded fashion, what they're doing now, without acknowledging what they're doing now. Right? They constantly deflecting attention to people who have already passed on, people who are no longer in politics, Hillary Clinton and her damn emails and all that stuff, and Hunter Biden, his laptop. We've been through that before. But yes, I mean, Hunter Biden is not my hero. The fact that Biden, the elder, pardoned him, that's also questionable, right?
Yeah.
That and so none of it is very pleasant to contemplate, to remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But once again, it does not justify what we're seeing now. It doesn't justify the coarsening of discourse that we see in Washington and the denigration of people of mental illnesses, etc., and war heroes and all this stuff that and Trump set that tone in his first term, you remember, right? And it only got worse. He's now Trump unleashed. It's a whole other world, and of course we're just talking about the surface of these things and the rhetoric and all that, but it has actually materialized in the way it conducts business with the rest of the world, right? Trump openly, now we've switched to Trump, but he openly denigrates poor countries. He doesn't care about Africa. I hear that he will be closing down embassies in Africa, from what I understand. USAID was closed, and so Trump means nothing good for Africa, I believe. Even though some people will say that maybe it's an opportunity to get rid of the cargo cult. You're familiar with the term, right?
Yeah.
Cargo cult, this sort of constant expectation of largesse from the the developed countries, from the West, whatever. Maybe
we're able to stand on our own feet.
Yeah. You never know. It may have that sort of flip side of that coin, maybe a benefit eventually. We'll see.
I'm curious about I was watching your interview in Namibia, and you're saying you're on a mission to visit, is it 40 countries?
Yes. 40 countries, 400 days. That's sort of
400 days. So what day are you on?
I'm on day, I think, 339 today.
Are you on track, or?
Yeah, I'm on track, and I keep a very detailed diary of all of my days, of course, because otherwise, they're rolling by so intensely. In Kenya, I've been getting up at 6, going to bed at 12, getting up at 2 in the morning to do CGTN, China Global Television Network. So as I'm doing a lot of media here, and I've already hit 3 TV channels, 4 different programs, probably 10 different radio programs, the podcast now, print. I'm parallel to that. I'm doing a lot of international, because the topic is very hot, and when that happens, I'm on call. I had CNN called me yesterday. I was in Al Arabiya, I was in Arab channels, Polish channels, Turkish channels, you name it. Mozambique. I was on TV Mozambique, Successor TV in Mozambique today. As well.
Did you think it would be that busy when you're on your trip?
Wherever I go, it's always busy. I'm just sort of that kind of guy. But I knew what I was, what I was going here for. It was not going to be just a strictly pleasure trip, even though I also made it so that the countries I'm visiting, for the most part, are the countries I'd never been to before. I'm an avid traveler. I've been to a bunch of countries, but I've never been to these. So, of course, I'll be doing a lot of travel just to see things. But I did not get to go to Mombasa, for example, or the shore or the coast, because this program was so packed in Nairobi. I've been happy to stay here and just do the work of talking about, explaining.
Are you happy at least about the interest in the perspective you have to give?
Oh yeah, there's tremendous interest, and once again, I think it helped that there's it's newsworthy, right? I've taken advantage of the fact that I've been lucky with Alaska and Washington, and so the first thing I showed up on Citizen TV in prime time.
What was your first spot in Nairobi in the local channels? Which was the first local channel which reached out?
Was that Citizen TV or what was it? I'm wondering.
Spice?
Not Spice. It may have been. Was it Citizen TV? What was my first gig?
You said you did Citizen yesterday, right?
No. This was Saturday.
Oh, okay.
I think it may have been. So it's like a strong kind of.
How did they find you?
Showing. I came out simultaneously. I was live on Citizen TV, whilst I was also broadcast my pre-recorded interview on KTN. So I was like on 2 channels at once.
At the same time.
At 9:30 p.m.
They just called you. How did they know you're around?
Well, I basically, when I'm in Uganda, I asked local folks, like, who do you know in Kenya? When I'm when I'm in Rwanda, people from Burundi. So I'm kind of passed on from country to country. That's how we've been traveling. Adjacent countries will always have journalists knowing each other from across the border. So that's what I do. People share most of the time willingly their contacts, and I just call up, make my case, send them my CV. They see for themselves who they are, and for the most part, there's not been a country where I had zero coverage. Even Burundi, which is hard territory. First of all, it's French speaking, very little English, and there's a lot of. The president is pro-Russian. Zimbabwe, pro-Russian. Mnangagwa went to Moscow to that Africa summit and said, we stand with the Russian people in this war. And still I managed to come out in the state newspaper, even though for the most part they talked about my love for Zimbabwean Mshima. Mshima is pap, the Ugali. So the whole article was about Ugali, you know, but still it was a big picture of me and the mention of Ukraine and I think it's already not nothing, you know, even though it's not as I wish it had been. But you just have to be realistic about, you know, prevailing geopolitical winds and how some. I mean, listen, to get out alive and not be deported from Zimbabwe, that in itself constituted success.
Yeah. So, what are the alternative sources of information where we can get info about the war and what's happening on the ground?
Well, alternative sources of information. First of all, NV. I think NV.ua is a good source. It's a magazine, a Ukrainian magazine online that is
NV.
NV.
How do you spell that?
NV, like new voice.
Okay. NV. All right.
UA. You get a lot of information in good English, translate, etc. Of course, when you say alternative, you may mean anything beyond both either Russian or Ukrainian sources, because you would see them as interested parties, and I think you would be right. Of course, I go to my go-to source for 30 years since I moved to America has been New York Times. I'm biased like that. It's not perfect. The Economist magazine, you know, I like The Economist. Those are major kind of mainstream sources, right? When you go, if you don't want mainstream, then you run into the territory of people like Tucker Carlson, who've been trying to get ahead and make a name for themselves by staking out these mavericky positions that break with the received wisdom, and it allows them to pass for independent thinkers, and that's how they charm these incels, all these wankers in America. This is very personal for me. A lot of those wankers were my friends. These good old Anglo-Saxon American boys who it was no brainer for them to support Ukraine. Lately they've been disengaging. Lately been this guy who was recently canceled, Brian, what's his name, the pretty boy, long hair from Brit YouTube personality.
The guy opens his shot.
Yes. What's his name?
We're gonna remember after we're done.
All of a sudden you hear him and he's spouting this like, what about the church?
The British accent guy.
Russell Brand. And so I think you wonder if they're being sincere. In the case of Russell Brand, I think it's a cynical play for followers, for money, for monetization. And some of my friends in America have been drawn to that narrative. Like, you know what? There's this other take on it that's probably truthful. They're trying to hide this truth from us. We're supporting Ukraine, but Ukraine is doing all this. What you're doing is actually, it's a backhanded way to justify Russia's narrative, essentially. But you package it as if you're just this independent thinker who's come up with this new take on what's really going on in Ukraine. That's been very disturbing for me, to watch, because I suspect a lot of these folks are insincere, and it's essentially a grab for attention. And you know the term of attention economy. We're all competing for, especially us in this business, we're competing for likes, for attention, for
eyeballs,
followers, etc. And those are people who are like totally, they are, living off that. That's like a IV drip to them, right? They'll do anything, say anything just to get more eyeballs, and ears.
I was mentioning to you this. You've mentioned something about it, even as we've had this conversation. But I just want to present it and hear your reaction, because I've even heard you speak about it somewhere else. The common narrative. In fact, I was sitting downstairs with a friend of mine, an older guy. So I'm like, "What do you think about Russia and Ukraine?"
Preparatory to this meeting.
Yeah, I was waiting for
Populi,
you. Right? So he's like, no, Russia is upset because the Ukraine want to join NATO. All right? And then when they join NATO, the Russians will be able to bring their bombs right at the back door of the Russians. All right?
Ukraine.
Like it happened with Cuba. You remember the Cuba?
You mean like Ukrainians? Right.
Yeah, you remember the Cuba crisis, the missile crisis?
1962.
Yes, so this guy described that, and that is like the most common narrative in the Russia versus Ukraine saga.
Right.
Do you think that's a valid argument?
I don't think it's a valid argument. NATO is not an offensive alliance. First of all, it's a defensive alliance. And how would you go to war with Russia? It's the world's greatest nuclear power. You have to be suicidal to do that, right? That's precisely why the Western powers have not given Ukraine sufficient weaponry in time, because nuclear blackmail works. And Medvedev is engaged in this nuclear blackmail, etc. You may make fun of it, but it works because it's also rational to be afraid of a nuclear annihilation. That's true. The odds of a nuclear conflagration have gone up. There's an institute somewhere in Europe that assesses the likelihood, and they have this like doomsday clock. You've heard of
Yes.
it. And so it's significantly ticked up. It's sped up. It's rotation, and so that's all rational. It works. I just don't see how NATO was threatening Russia, and I just don't think that it's the primary argument. It allowed Putin to mobilize public opinion. It's an effective argument outside of Russia, but like I say, I have several counter arguments to make that sort of neutralize that. Like, for example, if he says that was the idea, to go into war to Ukraine to prevent it from joining, Trump has given him that already, right? Have you been not following what he says? He says, no, Ukraine will not be will have to find security guarantees elsewhere, not through NATO. So he's already gotten what he wanted. The question is then, why won't he stop the war? If that's what he wanted and he got it already, how do you deal with that argument, right? That's kind of throws a monkey wrench into your wheel, right?
Yeah.
You sort of start thinking. Then, once again, the argument that majorities of Ukrainians did not want membership in NATO. Ukraine was very far from becoming a member. And here we come with, finally, there's culpability to be shared more broadly. And the culpability that is Western culpability, how that there was this song and dance around this issue. Ukraine, along with Georgia, were promised solemnly at this summit in Bucharest in 2008, the NATO summit, and Angela Merkel, the then Chancellor of Germany, said, you're on the path to NATO. So that, but never really meant it. They never fully meant it. There was no political will to accept Ukraine. So it was left in the vulnerable position where it was an official NATO aspirant, right? A candidate for NATO membership. That allowed Putin to whip up all this hysteria. But at the same time, these countries never meant to accept Ukraine. And my argument is, either a hard no, then, that guys, you're not getting membership, or a hard yes, which would have meant security umbrella under collective security agreement, chapter 5, would have been better than what we have now. A hard no, that means no, talking point for Putin, no bogeyman, right?
Yeah.
And then a hard yes, then just means like the Baltic states. Why is Putin not attacking the much weaker, smaller Estonia, Latvia? Estonia is 1.5 million. It's less smaller than Nairobi because they're under the umbrella of NATO, and that's why now Ukraine wants to join, because it seems like the only guarantee, other than nuclear weapons. The lesson of North Korea is, look at North Korea, the greatest malefactor, the worst bad boy in world politics, but it won't be attacked because they have nuclear weapons.
You think Ukraine shouldn't have done the Budapest Agreement thing?
And that precisely leads me, I'm very impressed you bring this up. That's a crucial point here. 1993, Budapest Memorandum. Ukraine gets this piece of paper, security guarantees, some nebulous, like vaguely written security guarantees in return for nuclear weapons that it kept as a member of the Soviet Union.
They gave it back to
They gave it back to Russia.
Oh,
and so the guarantors of Ukraine's security arrangement were Russia, UK, and US.
Yeah, I saw that.
And see how far that got us, what that paper was worth.
Yeah, true, man. It was worth like some t-shirt.
And so when Trump now says that he spoke with Vlad, and Russia will be, just give him more land, just reward him with the land, reward his aggression, then he in turn will sign another
memorandum.
I mean, I don't even.
Memorandum, Alaska memorandum.
Yeah, at this point you're just speechless. You can just do like grunts, Okay, we've been there before. It's an insult to anyone's intelligence. You cannot trust Russia. They're Byzantine like that. They're very devilish cunning, and they cannot be trusted. Even though they've also said the West cannot be trusted. And when I see what's happening in Washington now, when there's such a radical departure, break, a discontinuity with the previous president, that really diminishes your own power and standing in the world. And this is my comment about what's happening in Washington. America is fast losing its moral authority. It's giving up on its soft power. all these things that Trump considers as inessential and weak. You know, but that's another topic.
It's a topic for another day. You woke up at 3 a.m. tonight.
Yes.
2 a.m.
2 a.m. I did the CGTN panel. I do a lot of these, you know, a dozen a day when the metal is hot and you have to strike it because there's a lot of interest. People want to know, and so you just going around the circles, repeating the same thing on different platforms.
Yeah. Has it been different being here on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, you know, it's more. Even though I want to see some of your routine. I mean, you said you're comedians. Or is it like a set routine, or you?
Set.
You can set yourself, naturally witty.
No. You have to. You can't. Even if you're naturally witty, you still have to do the open mics.
The best improvisation is a prepared one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have a comedy club scene in Kiev?
Yes, you do. Of course.
English?
There's English as well. I've been to English comedy routines in Kiev. Yes.
Oh, okay.
But as a New Yorker, I mean, we're spoiled.
You're a New Yorker. I keep forgetting.
Comedy cellar.
Yeah. Have you been?
Oh yeah, many times. I've seen the likes of Jon Stewart.
This is like the ultimate destination for comedy.
You know Trevor Noah.
You saw him live?
Yes. You know, so I mean, if you live in New York, you come across a lot. I saw Madonna live. I saw Mick Jagger live. You know, I've seen a bunch of people on Broadway. I mean, this is what New York is all about, and that's why people pay the high buck, the big buck to live there. It's becoming very expensive, you know. But I still maintain my toehold, right? Foothold in Manhattan. I'm still resident of the island.
All right. So next time you come to Nairobi, the first thing you'll do.
Yes.
All right. I've taken over your schedule. You're gonna do the podcast tour. Because there are quite a number of podcasts here.
Oh, how
huge
many?
ones.
Probably like hundreds.
Not 100.
No.
They're like 4 major ones, which if you're still around, I would have probably told them to have you.
Do you
on.
consider yourself a major one as well?
Which one?
You one of the 4?
No, I think we are the biggest comedy podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are other podcasts who go really hard on politics. They have a large audience, like 200,000 followers and stuff. But next time.
No, I'd be thrilled. Nairobi has been I like Johannesburg. City that's not really high on the tourist list, right?
But it feels
Africa.
scary.
They say it's scary and all that, but it's a lively town. I even like it better than Cape Town. And Cape Town is the place where all the Muzungu go.
Yeah.
I actually I was lucky. I mean, I was left unscathed. I was not robbed or anything. It has good energy vibe, and Nairobi is a version of Johannesburg to me. You know, it's a happening city. I don't like the traffic jams. I think Nairobi would benefit from a light rail or a subway system. I know it's a huge capital investment, but you guys need it. Like you need air, right? And there's not very much air. It's too smoggy. Something has to be done by that to make it more livable. But other than that, during this trip, it's only Johannesburg in the city where I've spent more than 3 days in one place, and I've already spent a week here.
Nairobi is a very friendly place. Next time, I hope you stay longer. Bashir asked you about your
collection.
They're also, you don't see most of them. They're like 2-3 layers deep, a lot, right? And so I've been collecting them. I don't take them off, and they just stay on. And
night and day.
If they take a shower, go to a jacuzzi. If they fall off, they fall off on their own. I don't bother with that, but they just stay on. Some of them are 5-6 years old.
Mike.
So some of them are 5 or 6 years old. I have 3 Kenyan ones already. Proudly. This is the lake region, right? Countries, and this is, I love Kenya.
But you have
this
some
one
of them
was a gift from the Ukrainian ambassador. Kenya, Ukraine. And
this.
And if you allow me, may I? Yes. Then you'll be getting one from me. Can you hold this, please?
Oh, cool.
Because, let's see. I hope that I still have it, right? So you get to wear a little bit of a Ukrainian color here, the colors of the flag, and the trident, which is the ancient symbol of Ukraine.
Oh, the trident.
Yes, here.
Slava Ukraine!
Yes, Heroim Slava.
I'm ready for the front
the
lines.
retort is Heroim Slava, which means you say glory to Ukraine, and the retort is it's call and response, is glory to heroes.
So when I say Slava Ukraine,
you say Heroim Slava.
Right,
that's the retort.
That's like glory to the heroes.
Oh, okay.
The ones who have fallen.
Is that an ancient thing, or you just started off recently?
I think, World War Bandera, right? World War II.
Oh, so it's not like a recent thing.
1940s. Second World War.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Thanks.
Yes, and fellas, I wanted to give you. I wrote this came out as a big anthology. It was translated into English. It was sold in bookstores.
I thought it was the Ukrainian
50
passport.
different- 50 different contributors.
You're ready to leave.
This is my essay, came out in it, and I published it separately for to give out at my meetings to folks. It's my brief essay written about the first year of war. So it's inflected with that mood. It's quite a bit of a different mood than now. It's more rhapsodic.
So who wrote this?
I wrote this. This is my essay.
Meridian.
That's the publishing, and the foreword is by Mr. Zaluzhny, who was our commander-in-chief. Now he's ambassador to UK.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of bio,
there you are.
my bio, and the rest. Of it.
Oh, okay.
You could read it within
Blogger. I'm gonna put it up, guys.
Is there a
Gonna check
soft
it out.
copy for anyone watching? A soft copy, a PDF or
PDF. Yeah. I think I'll be happy to share the link with you. I think it is
Okay.
online.
So we got you some Kenyan tea.
Oh,
All right. I don't know how you're gonna carry it because you're traveling.
but it's live.
Maybe you can just unpack it and put it in a lighter. So this is called tangawizi chai. It's flavored.
it's ginger.
In the Ukraine, are you tea people? Do you drink a lot of tea there?
Tea and
Vodka.
coffee, but coffee now. Coffee's been taking, but I suspect we'll have to go back to tea because coffee's been going up in price tremendously. Climate change is affecting plants tremendously. We're losing coffee plants. Chocolate is going, bananas are going to be going out of business because there's a lot of miscegenation, meaning the crossbreeding, the interbreeding of bananas.
Okay.
The interbreeding of bananas will lead to a disappearance of bananas or making them a luxury good, right? And coffee is going to be, but tea is always the mainstay of things.
Okay. So this is
wonderful.
it's flavored.
I really appreciate this.
Tangawizi. What is tangawizi in English?
Ginger.
Ginger.
Ginger. Oh,
Yeah, ginger flavored. So it doesn't.
Beautiful. I
It
appreciate
does an
it.
extra kick.
thank you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It was the best I've done so far in Kenya for sure.
What, the podcast?
Yeah, it was a truly lovely.
No, it wasn't. It's nice.
That's
after the it's nice.
This is I'm glad it was a bitch getting here, an hour and a half stuck in traffic, fumes, and the sun coming down and no AC. I was getting a little, as Emmanuel had to put up with my borderline hysteria. I wanted to get out. I wanted to leave. I wanted to turn around and go back.
Yeah.
He persevered.
He was like, "Let me out of this car!"
but
I'll walk back.
he persevered, and I'm here. And I'm
No, thank you for coming through.
it's so nice.
It's cool. I think I've gotten an insight. I'm so curious about what's happening.
We could talk endlessly. Folks, we can talk
No, but
seriously, as we
next
say,
time.
until the cows come home.
Yeah, maybe one of these days when you get back home, we could do a Zoom.
Absolutely, I'm
Online
always happy.
thing.
I'm always happy. That's part of my mission. It's not. I don't want it to be a one-off. That's why I've gone on. A lot of these folks in these countries still call on me. I gave interviews yesterday, managing between rushing from media house to media house and doing interviews with the big guys, CNN. I was on Botswana radio, Desert FM. I was on Duma FM. In Namibia, Botswana. I was on SABC, SAFM. That's South Africa radio. So I'm in touch with TV Mozambique, and I've offered myself, as a commentator for lots of Kenyan media as well. I want to stay in touch. And I want to make myself available for you guys.
Yeah.
So what's the next step? The next stop is you said you're traveling tomorrow, right?
To the islands, eventually to Madagascar and Mauritius, because I also understand that it's those hard to reach places, so I might as well take advantage, and that's why I'm kind of like I've gone kind of greedy. I want to hit them all. I want to visit them all. I want to go deep inside the country, travel in and out, because I might not have a chance again.
You're going to Seychelles?
Seychelles briefly, and it may sound like some kind of a resort idea, but no, I want to engage with the media there as well. Okay. I want to engage with Madagascar media because Russians have been very active in Madagascar.
Yeah.
You have to understand, the stories about how they've been playing both sides in the last presidential elections against each other, etc. There's a lot of this stuff going through, especially Francophone Africa in the West, right? Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
And Traore, who's become like the darling of. You go to Burundi, and the back of these buses, you have this kind of altar of you have Putin, Traore, Gaddafi. Gaddafi, Putin.
It's like a Mount Rushmore.
Ndayishimiye, the president of Burundi. So they have their own kind of this
Trident.
the trident of strongman.
In Kenya, we do a lot with our matatus also, but I'll have you know, I haven't seen
Matatus, the buses.
The
Yeah,
buses.
yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't seen any for Putin. So.
But I heard there was one initially, right? Painted over with Zelensky and the trident, etc. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's a bummer that I haven't come across this bus. Would have been tremendous, but apparently it's circulating.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Nairobi.
it's there.
I feel like you're a one-man army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as one of our ambassadors, one of our African ambassadors, one of our Ukrainian ambassadors in Africa, put it, he kind of consecrated me. He said, "You are our ambassador at large."
Yeah.
So I'm a self-appointed ambassador at large, which means I am not a diplomat. I don't have a blessing from the government, but I try to do what's right by my people. I try, to just convey, and share the story.
Okay. All right. Let me let you go.
Thank you.
Karibu
That's the
Kenya.
best. That's the best part of it,
Yeah, man. Just like, finally! No, but thank you so much for coming through. You're welcome. You are an honorary member of this podcast now. You are our
Amen.
on the ground Ukraine correspondent
How many guests have you had so far? I mean,
on our podcast.
yeah,
Generally speaking.
yeah,
Oh man, like over 100.
over 100.
Yeah.
And how long?
We're on episode 160. This is gonna be 168.
68. Wow.
Yeah, so we're a comedy podcast, but in the comedy we try bring in serious conversations, like I was telling you on the voice note. So it's not just comedy. Sometimes we pause on the laughter because we laugh a lot on this podcast, but sometimes we just bring in people who just bring in a different perspective, which I feel like for me this is interesting for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
All right. If guys are following you, Peter,
Zalmayev.
on Instagram.
Zalmayev.
Instagram, Facebook.
Are you active on your Instagram?
Not as much because for Ukraine it's more. If you're in politics, it's Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook is number one.
Facebook.
I know you have X.
This guy's always shitting on
X
Facebook.
Is big, right? X is big. X.
Yeah, X is big here.
Twitter.
Yeah. All right, check him out. Also check out his work just check on Google. On YouTube, rather. You'll find a lot of videos.
And also put the link for the.
Yes.
Yeah.
You found it?
There's an online.
No. You said you're supposed to send.
Yeah, I think
so-
it's if you Google it, there should be an
Okay.
English version. I'll send it to you.
I'll look for it.
No problem.
And shout out to the lady too. Is it okay if we shout out from here?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing
coming
him.
through.
For keeping me sane and whole and together. you know?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you guys on the next one. Bye bye.